Hello everyone. In this session, we'll explain about Spring Bean scope for Java developers. In the Spring framework, understanding the Bean scope is very crucial for effective application design. Let's dive into the four main scope of this Spring Boot one. Singleton, prototype, request, and session. So these are the main scope of this whenever we are going to develop any Spring Boot application. So now, if we talked about this, the default scope that is registered with the Spring, that is the singleton bin. Okay, and whenever we are going to defining any scope, then we can defining the scope of the any bin that with the @scope annotation. Okay, so now we will talk about the singleton bin scope. The singleton, this is the very default bin scope in the Spring container. Like if we are not defining any scope specifically, then the default scope will be singleton bin. I will create one program and definitely I'll go through it one by one for all the scope. So here, whenever the singleton, as I said, this is the default bin scope in the Spring container. It tells the container to create and manage only one bin class instance per container. This single instance stored in cache of such singleton bins, and all the subsequent requests and the reference for that bin is written from the cache instance. Okay, now if we want to create the example of it, then we need to create one bin for this, and then we are going to I will run that particular application so that we can see that how this we can identify that many instances created for a singular bin or not. So for that, this is my previously I explained about that what are the this about the command line runner interface in this example. So here I'm also going to explain about the bin scope concept over here. So let me just create one package over here like .bin .scopes. Okay, here I'm going to talk about all the bins scope over here. So first of all, create one bin over here. Let's say my bin. Okay, so let me create that bin over here. Just on single class. Here you can see that my bin, and this is the constructor, and here we have put in something like that my bin instance is created. Okay. Now what we will do next we will going to create one configuration class over here. Let me create one class over here, like let's say class is my configuration. Okay, and we need to annotate this particular class with annotation configuration annotation this one. Next, we are going to create one bin over here. That whatever the class we have created, we have not declared any type of component or service layer over here. We are going to create the bin over here. So for defining the bin, actually, we are going to defining the @bin over here, then public my bin, then my bin object we are going to create over. From here, we are going to return new my bin. This instance we are going to return from over here. Now we need to defining the scope over here @scope. Okay, so here we can defining the scope like either value equals to here will be singleton, or there is another options to doing so with configurable bin factory. Actually from here also we can use the static method configurable bin factory configurable bin factory, this interface. From here we can use the this singleton property, this prototype or singleton. Okay, so both are fine. Now how we are going to check this one? Just to check, we are going to create one class over here. Okay, main method actually basically. Let's say one class checking bin scope main. Okay, here what we will do, we will create one main method over here, and then we are going to use the application config application context over here. This method, then context equals to new annotation config. New annotation config class. Okay, now here we are going to register that service, register that configuration dot register that my configuration class. That configuration class we are going to register over here. Okay, next we are going to do the refresh. Okay, after that we are going to create that particular bin, that whatever the bin we have created, bin1 equals to context dot get bin, and here we are going to defining this my bin dot class. Okay, and then we are going to print the hash code of this bin. So this bin1 dot hash code, just to check, like, because as you know we have created one singleton bin. So concept of the singleton bin is to, like, it will be like return the same object. If it is already created, it will not create the multiple instance of it, right? And after that, so I've created another actually bin2, and also again print the like bin2 object hash code over here. The finally we need to close this context, application context. Okay, now if we run this application, then it will internally run this bin and generate the hash code. So it should similar for both cases, because in case of the singleton it will return the same hash code, for because it will not create the multiple instance, it will create the single instance, and then it will return for overall the application time. So now if we open this, you can see that my bin instance is created, and here we can see the same hash code is written by this one. So this is actually concept of this singleton bin. Means once the bin object will be created, then it will keep same. It will basically not change the values of it. It will keep the same. This is the concept of the singleton bin. So here we can verify by creating this multiple bin and checking their hash code. Every time the bin creation code is executed, the same hash code will be printed over here. This is the thing. Next we will talk about this prototype bin scope. The prototype scope result in the creation of new bin instance every time a request for the bin is made by the application code. Means once the request will come, then it will create the new bin of that particular class. In contrast to the other scope, Spring doesn't manage this complete life cycle of this prototype bin. We know like this destruction bin life cycle, that is are not called for this prototype scope bin, so we need to, it will only do the initialization, so we need to take care of these things. So now if we talked about the configuration, so here instead of the singleton, so we can define another property that is called the prototype. Okay, so this is suffice the things that this bin will be, scope will be prototype. Now if we run the example again, so we will see that bin was created twice with defined hash code. So let me run the main method again. So from here we can easily understand that it will create two new object or new bin for this one, because the hash code will be different. Let it print yes. You can see that this class instance is created twice, and also it's written the hash code different because it's generate the unique. So that means for each time whenever you're going to accessing this particular bin, it will execute, it will recreate the object, and it will give us the different hash code. So this is the like concept of this prototype and the singleton. Other scopes, like it's also having defined scope like session request, then other scopes like application, then WebSocket. So these are basically only available for the web application. So in the case of the non-web application, it will not work. So for that, for defining the request scope and the like session, we need to create some like different way. So that I will show you also over here, that how we are going to create those bin and how we are going to like I will show you demonstration for those scope also. So now like we are going to defining like that request scope and other scope like session scope. So in request scope, basically container create a new instance for each and every HTTP request. So if the server is currently handling, let's say 20 requests, so then the container have at most 20 individual instances of that particular bin class. Let's say we are having this bin and we are defining this bin as request scope. So it will create only the 20 instance because the server currently handling the 20 request. So in this way, basically it will handle like any state change in one instance will not be visible to the other instances. Like let's say this is we have created 20, so those are individual, those are unique. A bean instance is destructed as soon as the request is completed. So the bean instance will be like destroyed once the request will be complete. So the request scope annotation works as a shortcut for the like as we are defining the like scope over here, like scope equals to this. So here we can defining the request. This will also work. So I will show you that how it's basically work. So for that we are going to create some like class over here. Let me create that one. Let me create one class over here for that request bin. Request scope bin. Okay, so here we can defining this as component. Okay, next here we are going to defining the scope. So here under this we are going to defining this value equals to like a request. This is the shortcut like, and then we can defining the like scope proxy mode actually equals to scope proxy mode dot target class. So now like if we see the something details over here, this we need proxy mode attribute because when web our context is instantiated, we don't have any HTTP request. Therefore Spring inject the proxy as a dependency and instantiates bin when HTTP request is invoked, right? So instead of that we can also defining this as like at the rate requested request scope. This is also we can defining over here. Now we are going to, this is similar for the session scope also. Now we are going to means create some like whenever it will be initialized. So for checking that we are going to defining something like what we can say, let's say we can create some fields over here, and then we can defining this getter and setter method for this one. Let's say defining this getter and setter, then generate, and also we are going to create one constructor because when this bin will be initiated, then we can say like that request scope constructor is called, so that we can easily understand that the bin is initiated for this request, so we can understand, right? So in this way basically this request scope will be created. Now if we create that session scope bin, this is also similar to that. Let me, that's why I copied the same class and just will do some modifications over here. Session scope that is over here. Let's say I have updated this, some method will be updated over here, like we'll pin some time for this one like this over here, local date time I have used, and this is the session scope. Okay, okay. And as you can see we can defining this instead of this we can defining that like it will be a session. Okay, and this will be also same. You can see also session scope also there, that also you can use. So I'm not going to use that, I'm using this one. Okay, so this one next what we will do, we will create one like component layer another, from where we are going to actually from the controller actually we are going to create means call those services. So let me create one another component class over here. Let me, that's a combined scope service. We can annotate this particular class with component annotation. Next, we are going to automate these two bin actually, that session one and the request scope one. These two bin we can create over here. And now we are going to generate the getter and setter method over here for this two bin. Source, generate getter setter over here, select all and then generate. Now we are going to create one controller layer. Let's say like base bin scope controller, new class over here, bin scope controller, and we are going to automate this service. Okay, now we are going to create one like get mapping over here, that is request scope, and then public string like request scope, and over here we are going to call that, like we are going to from this scope service request scope, this dot get request scope dot get name, we are going to call this particular like this name actually. As you can see over here that we are going to call this particular name of this one, the what is the name that will print over here. Similar one we are going to like create for session scope, that also we can do. Instead of that we are going to write the session scope. Okay, and here instead of that we are going to call this get session scope. Okay, so now we can start this application, but before that just previously we have to use this one. So let me just, okay, I have already like commented so that it will not initialize those things. Okay, now what I will do, I will start this application, okay, from over here, and then from the like we'll check that request scope and this session scope, that how it is working. Once it will start, then we can see from the browser. Let me see why it is not coming. Okay, we need to like provide this like this request mapping. It will be a slash API, and also like we need to annotate this class with REST controller, right? Correct. We need to annotate this class because else it will not be treated as a like it will not expose those API. Correct. So now we can check from the browser. So now you can see that we have calling this request scope. So here you can see that request scope constructor is called. So how many times I will hit this one? It will like every time it will hit this one, right? Now instead of that, if I call this session one, so it will actually call this per session. Now here you can see that session scope call this time. Okay, now like if we see that again if I called, so it will not create anything over here, right? Correct. Now again like if I close this browser, and like again if I check that about the session scope, then again you can see that it will basically call. Let me open that another browser. Basically I need to call another browser. Now here you can see I have called from another browser, and as you can see that is again like one session is like generated over here, like new session, and then it is printed over here, right? So again like if I called from over here, then is for each session it will actually bin, that particular bin will be created. So this is the thing that like we can use that for request scope and the session scope. So we can also update the value, like we can set the name over here, and then we can like those things, but I'm not going to apply over here. But this is the thing that how we are going to use this request scope and the session scope. So this is about the form, like this main scope of this like that we are basically used in all the time whenever we're going to write code in a Spring Boot basis, right? So this is the thing that like about Singleton, that is the default scope of the bean, then prototype, request scope, and the session scope. There are some other scope like application scope, then WebSocket scope, then custom thread scope is there. So that are also there, but I'm not going over there. These are the like primarily that are used. If you guys are need to understand more about, then please let me know about it. So this is the thing that about that how we are going to that how different types of bean scope is available over here, how we are going to use it in our code. So I will add this code into the GitHub section, also share that link over there. And this is about all this session that you guys, obviously you guys, if you have any doubt or anything, please do let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Please press the bell icon for further notification. Thanks for your time. See you in my next videos. Bye bye.